Hey guys, welcome back to markdillon.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, you know the drill. Click subscribe, help me get to what I believe is now 30,000 subscribers, which is really pretty cool for me. So help me get there. And on to tonight's question, which is from Marty. He says, Dear Mark, first you are wise beyond your years. I would love to take you out to dinner next time you're here in LA and hear how in the world you accumulated so much wisdom in a short life. Marty, well, so first of all, I'm probably a little bit older than you think. And secondly, as the old saying goes, it's not the years, it's the miles. And I've crammed a lot of living into my short life and managed to avoid a lot of the big pitfalls that other people who've gone through similar things fall into. Now, uh, and by the way, as I've said many times on my channel, gratuitous flattery is a surefire way to get on my good side, so I may have to take you up on that dinner. Now on to Marty's question. He says, I'm getting married, and in the back of my head, I feel the need to ask for a prenup, but I can't bring myself to do it. I'm in my late 40s now, and I was single for almost a decade after a terrible relationship where I was basically taken advantage of emotionally and financially. I've been with my current boyfriend going on 5 years now, and we've not had one serious problem. We live together but keep our finances separate. I think we'll be together forever or I wouldn't be marrying him. But I worry if something happens, I could lose what I've worked very hard to accumulate. I basically am set on asking for the prenup, but wonder if you think it's reasonable, and how should I approach the subject? All right, Marty. Well, listen, look, first of all, I have to say, I find these kind of conversations or these kind of questions very flattering because I really do, I really am flattered when someone asks my opinion or they trust my judgment enough to ask about something that is very impactful to their life. Of course, I always have to clarify, I'm not a professional counselor, therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, or any of the above. I'm just another bozo on YouTube with an opinion. But you know, I've got several people that I'm friendly with who are extremely successful and very well to do, and they ask my opinion about all kinds of things, and I find that flattering. For example, I have a friend now going through what's a very substantial divorce. We're talking millions in property, millions in investments, and millions in art. And there's three people he asks for advice on his divorce, about his divorce. His lawyer, his accountant, and yours truly, which I have to laugh at that. But, you know, I see the same things they see the same numbers, and I give my honest opinion. And, you know, that's something that I just am, you know, flattered by. So thank you for asking. Now, on to your question. I hate to tell you this, Marty, but I really can't say if your particular situation is reasonable or not, because there are several important facts that I don't have. So I will tell you when I think prenups are, you know, reasonable, or when you should absolutely have them. So, you know, look, it basically comes down to how big is the disparity and the value of the assets you're bringing into the marriage. Uh, Listen, if he's got very little and you've got 40, 50, $60,000 and that's what you're talking about a prenup for, I think it's overkill. Then I think you're letting, you know, probably unsubstantiated fears cloud your, you know, trust or faith in your relationship. That said, if he's got very, very, very little in the way of assets, and you've got $400,000 or $500,000 or $4 or $5 million, then I think it's perfectly reasonable to have a prenup. The, the, the bigger the disparity in the value of assets you're bringing to the relationship, the more reasonable a prenup becomes. You know, and particularly when you start talking about when there is a really big gap between the value that of assets that you guys are bringing to the relationship. The bigger the gap, the more weirdness can come into your marriage. So, you know, if someone knows there's a multi-million dollar differential that they stand to benefit from in the event of a divorce? Could it be sufficiently motivating for them to, you know, hide their intentions and deceive you and all of that and marry you? Yes, of course it could. And even if they're perfectly nice and perfectly decent, when you're talking about that kind of money being on the line, other people could start to influence your partner, their family, their friends, their whatever. So when you're talking about really large sums, it does invite a certain level of dysfunction. And you absolutely have to protect yourself against that. And I know there are some people who would say, if the prenup doesn't apply for 50,000, it shouldn't apply for 50 million. I don't agree with that, but you're welcome to that line of thinking. And if you got 50 million, I hope you don't lose it. Um, and the other scenario where I think a prenup really does make sense is, let's say, for example, you have some valuable family heirloom that you've inherited, or something that has really incredible emotional value to you, and you just feel the need to protect that. Then I think you're well within your rights to ask for a prenup. But if you're not talking about a huge uh, difference in look, if you're basically talking about the monetary value you're bringing to the marriages, if it's reasonably similar, no need for a prenup. If there's not if there's not a ton of money on the line, I wouldn't even ask for the prenup. So there you go. That's my criteria for determining if it's reasonable. That's the that's as much as I can help you with that. And also, a good rule of thumb is, if you were to step back and look at this objectively, and someone else was telling you these same set of facts, would you think that it makes sense for them to ask for the prenup? How would you feel if you had a niece or a nephew or a son or a daughter, and they came to you and they laid out these specific set of facts and said their partner was asking for a prenup? You use that as your litmus test. If you've got a close friend who's seen your relationship up close and personal, ask them what they think. Ask your accountant, ask your lawyer, although your lawyer's probably going to tell you you need a prenup. That's like asking a dog, is he hungry? Now, how you bring this up is the most important thing, because perception matters. Perception is all important in these kind of things. So something could be perfectly reasonable, and something could be well thought out and well presented. That doesn't mean the other person will perceive it as such. That's why it's very important for you, while you're presenting to him, you help shape his perception. So first of all, I would say you should start out with something like, let's pretend his name is Bob. Bob, I love you, and I think I can talk to you about I can talk to you about anything. And there's something that's been bothering me for a long time. And start the conversation that way, letting him know you trust him and you can confide in him. Then I would, lay the facts for your feelings out first, and say that, you guys have not combined your finances up to this point. That's concerning for you. You had a terrible relationship, which I'm sure he knows about, and that's left you with some scar tissue. And then you say, so that being said, and I'm really worried about this, what do you think about a prenup? And in my opinion, it's very important for you to say it that way. What do you think about a prenup? One that mitigates the bluntness of saying, I want a prenup. And then it invites his opinion. So when you say, what do you think about a prenup? He's not immediately forced to counter what you've said, which would be, I want a prenup. And then he's either got to say yes or no, or he gets pissed off or falls to pieces. You just say, what do you think about one? And then that kind of encourages the dialogue. That's about all the advice I have for you, Marty. It's going to be an uncomfortable conversation for sure. But I think when it comes to these kind of things, it's incredibly important to be thoughtful, conscientious, courteous, and all of that. But you have to be direct. I mean, you really have to tell the person what it is you're feeling, and be honest. That's the best rule of thumb for these kind of things. Don't talk in vague, ambiguous terms. Say what you're feeling. Um, and then don't push him for an answer that very day, because there might be some it could be like an emotional earthquake, and there could be some aftershocks, the following days. So give him time to digest it, and then pick a day where you're going to talk about it. Say, look, we don't even have to finish this conversation right now, if assuming he gets upset. Say, we'll talk about it in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, and then go from there. Um, and send me an email. Let me know how the conversation goes, because I would be interested to find out. Well, guys, that's about all I have to say. Thanks for tuning in to markdillon.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe.